Hello everybody, my name is Craig Bennett, and today we are going to get into another stock market video. And this one we're going to get into transferring assets from one firm to another firm. Now, as far as this goes, this video might seem like something I would do much further down the line. And the reason why I'm doing this particular video is to show you the reason to listen to some of the things I talk about as far as like questions to ask firms or maybe things to do in the future. So as far as things goes with the actual giving your assets from one firm to another, why would you want to do this? I'm actually personally doing it right now for Scottrade to Fidelity. Reason why is simply the commission fee. So for a later video, we're going to get a little bit deeper in the commission fee and long and short and stocks, stuff of this nature. But the thing to note is commission fee is simply when you buy or sell, you have to pay a set fee. So for Scottrade, I think it was like $7 or $9. Can't remember off the top of my head. I think it's $7 per trade. So $7 buy, $7 sell. Doesn't matter how much is in that buy or sell. It's just $7 fee tacked on. And for Fidelity, it's like $4 and something cents, so it's dramatically lower. And that's just something to keep in mind. Is something simple like that. I can do the same services and everything, but at a lower cost. It seems like good enough. Then there's much more of a dramatic thing. Maybe a company is buying out your actual overall investment firm, and you might not like that company, or they might want to change the rules where the price of everything's going to go up, or they might change the rules where you have to pay monthly or something like that. And that does happen, and that's the reason why you need to know what does it take to transfer your assets from one firm to another. And also what you need to, if you're going from one firm to another, like for example where I was at Scottrade, I'm still staying at Scottrade. It's no harm just keeping a thing open because there's no inactive fee or anything like that. But where I'm going with Fidelity, the thing with them is, and now talking over the phone, asked them about this, is they said if the other firm does charge money to transfer the assets, then basically they will reimburse me. Fidelity will reimburse me for that. That's something to ask, is whenever you're going from one firm to another, is ask the firm that you're going to, say, if this old firm actually costs any money in transferring my assets, will you reimburse me, or will you just pay for that straight up? And that's something that you just got to keep in mind. Now, with that one in mind, how transfers work is really in one of two ways, and there's probably more ways, but one of two most common ways. First is you have, say, Company A and Company B. Company A is the firm A, which is what you were at one point, the older firm, and firm B is where you want the assets to be transferred to. Well, what happens in one scenario is if Company A, the old firm, has the permission to, they can actually transfer automatically the assets to Company B. And this is actually very helpful, and it actually does shorten up the time overall. However, when we get into the second scenario, and this is more than not, is Company B has to contact Company A about the transfer. Say our client wants to transfer their assets from your investment firm to our firm. And what would end up happening is Company B will contact Company A. Company A will then return and give the assets to Company B. The problem is in most scenarios is it does take some time to do this. So it's not going to be like an overnight thing. It's very common for it to take about 15 days, so about half a month, in order to transfer your assets. It's very important to note that. And with that being in mind, is if you're going with the first scenario, or the first scenario happens, it dramatically shortens the time. But I believe that a lot of the time when it gets up to the 15 day, because I've seen it all the way up to the 15 day, because I've done this a few times with a few companies, is when it gets to the 15th day or very close to the 15th day, it's artificially inflated. And really what it would take to just transfer the assets is company, let's say for example where I'm at, Scottrade, try and transfer that assets to the Fidelity, where Fidelity can simply send the request. That would take about, say, a business day, because they have to fax it over or email it over into the system. So let's give it a generosity of the day. Well, what would end up happening is it would take probably 1 day of processing and then another day of just moving the stuff over. Whereas in reality, I think I'm not saying Scottrade does this. I'm not saying any given company does this. This is just my personal opinion. I just think that more than not, when it goes to the 15-day type of thing, the company is sitting on it. Keep in mind, most companies say that it will take up to 15 days. This gives them some leeway. I've seen some companies where they're shutting down. They need that amount of time because they're on skeleton crew in the first place. And then if there's any security thing that comes up, then there's that. The shortest amount of time I've ever seen a transfer happen is about 5 days. So keep that in mind, where even still, even though the relationships between firms might be great and everything's great, the fact of the matter is it can take a little while to do. So almost like an entire business week. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and jump on in. Now I'll be using my Fidelity account to transfer the Scottrade stuff. And with this one in mind, I'm going to block out any unneeded information. But let's just jump on over. And this aspect is basically saying that the new company, the new firm, Fidelity, is going to request to Scottrade. So keep that in mind. I think they are in pretty good terms, so I don't think it would take too long. But it's basically many companies, many higher-end companies, will have something like this where you can actually go ahead and search and do all this stuff online. I've done stuff like this a few times. So with that in mind, all you need to do is tell them what company it is, being Scottrade or some other type of thing, maybe TD Ameritrade. Keep in mind, TD Ameritrade and Scottrade is merging, or some other company. You need to have the account number, and then you need to tell it the account type. If you don't know the account type, you need to actually look it up. But just offhand, I'm going to tell you more than not, it's probably an individual. And but it's fairly important that you actually look up the account type. So with that, you basically need to say where you want to transfer to and whatever. But the part of that I'm really interested in is transfer all account assets, or transfer a particular one. This is a pretty cool thing, because you can say, oh, I want to transfer everything in the accounts, given that it's not in the middle of a trade or anything like that. Or you want to trade a particular type. So I can trade, and this is the assets, is cash, bonds. Keep in mind, bonds are basically loans, commercial papers, blah, blah, blah. And this is fairly important. So if I want to go to stock, I can even say the stock type, the transfer all the shares, or transfer some of the shares. Keep in mind that you, as the owner of that account, own these things. So it's fairly important to note that. And depending on exactly what you're doing, it will depend on the extra time that's at, probably about a day or two. But with that being in mind, it's just fairly important to know what you want to transfer. So for example, if I want to only transfer a handful of shares of some company, maybe I bought, I don't know, 2,000 shares of IBM in and basically I want to transfer it over to whatever account for whatever reason. Maybe it's a custodian account or something like that that's going to go to some kid or someone else. Well, basically what I can do is just transfer it over, and that way, they have it. So as far as that goes, I do want to transfer all the assets. As I said before, it's much cheaper to go with Fidelity for now. It might not be later. So let's go ahead and select next. So with this, it's just basically asking for some evidence. I've seen this across the board. I think I transferred stuff in TD Ameritrade back in the day, Scottrade, and a few other places, and they ask for something very similar when you're transferring from one account to another. And then the final page is simply that you agree, whatever, and where to submit everything, and you agree to the terms of all that. So from there, you just press agree and submit, and from here, it'll say the estimated dates of when the transfer and the transfer details and whatever it might be down there, and something simple as that. So with this, it's saying 8 days here, and that sounds pretty reasonable into itself. So about next week this time. But as far as that goes, I've seen this for. I was helping someone else out with their account, and it said the full 15 days for them. That's a very common thing to see, as a full 15 days, especially if a firm is about shut down, which the ones that they were transferring from was shutting down. Anyways, as far as that goes, if you got any questions, anything else, let me know. But just note that how you transfer the actual steps as far as where you go on the site and stuff like that, that's most likely going to be different from firm to firm. So they should all have help type of centers, either some type of phone number that you call or something like that. But as you saw there, it is purely online. I didn't have to go into a place. The closest Fidelity firm is about 2 hours away. Same thing as Scottrade's 2 hours away and stuff like that. So, the fact is all this stuff is online. But note that each one of these places have some type of phone number that you can call in case if you get stuck or something like that. So